Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you're having a great week so far. And we just want to welcome all of you to day 58 of Kickstart Fall 2025, as well as our regular Tuesday night chat. We're so excited to have you all here with us tonight.
We've got really important, powerful session lined up tonight. We're going to be talking about menopause.
We're not going to be
No, we're
talking
not.
about
But
menopause.
the conversation will be about. We're not the ones talking
No,
about it. We're just
not
gonna let you
us.
guys
We'll let
listen.
Tracy
We're
talk
gonna
about
enjoy. We're
menopause,
gonna
and
enjoy
we'll
our
just, we're going to drink
water.
some water.
So, as I was saying, Tracy will be talking about menopause, premenopause, and how we support your bodies through big hormonal transitions, something that doesn't get enough attention but absolutely should. So,
We're definitely excited because Tracy, she just is just someone who brings so much experience, passion, and she's always there for an honest conversation. And that's what we love about her so much. And she takes care of it all. But before we even go into that, we're just going to do a few announcements, okay? Just
yes. So first, let's start with the diamond status update. We have 69 diamond members as of this morning. So make sure you guys submit your trackers.
good.
And good job. We're at day
You go,
18,
Diamond.
18 of the month, and we still have 69. So keep submitting your trackers. Remember that you can find your status and how you're doing on the dashboard. And you also can see now, right at the top of every page of the dashboard, really, it says now what dates you've missed tracked this month.
Makes it so much
So
easier.
if you're not sure and you're like, well, I thought I submit every day, but it still says I'm gold, please look at that little box. It tells you right there what you're missing so you can submit it and then get back to diamond status. This month, I will not be sending emails at the end of the month. So I've set all this new stuff up to kind of help with, helping you guys figure this out on your own. So this month, I will not be sending emails out to let you know if you're missing any trackers, because now it's all right up there for you guys. That's why I changed the system, so it made it a little easier for you guys to find that. And I
Definitely.
just put in chat the link to the tracker. So if you've not finished your tracking, just go there. You'll be able to submit the rest of your stuff.
So, just so you guys are aware, the books for the winter session are already available on Amazon. They're also available in PDF on our website. So, again, as we always say, books are not mandatory to be a part of Kickstart. They are just a way for you to track your journey. Everybody finds different ways of tracking, and there's no right or wrong way of doing it. But we've heard from our members that they love the way the journal is laid out. It is just something that they depend on. So we really think that we've come up with a great way of doing it. So if it's something that you're struggling with, maybe this is the answer. Maybe this is what you've been looking for.
And we've also said, you can buy one as a gift. If you're trying to help someone in a new year, someone is, struggling or they need some support, and you guys have been supported by Kickstarter, and you think someone could really use the pick me up, just go to our website, go to the books link, and buy the books for someone who would like to possibly try Kickstarter.
Just introducing them to this community is a hell of a gift, I
Yeah,
think.
and it's
Honestly,
free.
right? Like
So
that's
you
a
don't even
pretty
get them
cool
a
gift.
book. You don't even get them a book. You could just say, "Hey, here, join."
And and we are also wanting to remind you of our third cookbook. It's out. It's also hot off the presses. 30 recipes. They're all new recipes for the winter of 2020. Is it winter 2026? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness, I can't even
It's
remember.
it's already ready for next
It's
year.
ready for next
And
year.
Donna got it. Apparently, she has a thumbs up, so she loves it. So I'm glad. So our newest cookbook's out. 30 new recipes. Yes, we have 3 cookbooks out.
And I'm working on 4 right
Working on
now.
number
I am
4.
currently working on
And
number
for
4.
anyone ever wondering, all of them have different recipes. So we've released so far 90 recipes out there. So we're working on our 4th cookbook now, which will come out in summer 2026. That's what we do every year now, where you'll have 2 cookbooks a year, 4 sessions of Kickstart per year. So hopefully you have all that. You can also sign up for Kickstart. So if you've not registered yet for our winter 2026 session, which begins on January 5th, you will be able to sign up by going to jeanlucanick.com/kickstart. And once you're there, you can register. And again, just go to send a link to your friends and family, and they can also sign up there for free. And remember, there's only 500 spots. So we're already at 147 people registered, and we're November 18th. So if you have not registered yet, please check the dashboard. It'll tell you again in the same box where it tells you if you're missing any dates. It also tells you if you are registered for Kickstart Winter 2026. So please check that out to make sure you're registered for our next session.
And yes, CDA, the PDF is emailed to you once you purchase the PDF. We will email that to you. Let's talk about travel real quick. So you all know we are heading out in the next couple of weeks. We are still on our way to Jamaica for our RMR and Jean-Luc and Nick trip. Plus, we have a lot of retreats coming up at next year. Our very last retreat for this season is happening this coming weekend.
Yep.
And so we have Camp Cedar Ridge. There's a Bougie Mama. There are also there's Camp Kimtail, and then
Kickstart retreats.
There's 2 Kickstart retreats. We're going to Ireland. We are doing a lot of traveling, but stay tuned for some local stuff again, because this summer we'll be introducing some new local type of activities and trying to come see more people in different locations as well.
So tonight's guest is someone who brings deep experience both professionally and personally. Tracy is a holistic perimenopause and menopause coach, a GLP-1 integration coach, a cancer coach, and a founder of TransforME Coaching. She's also a breast cancer survivor of 13 years.
She helps people navigate the physical and emotional realities of menopause. Because guess what? Nick and I have no clue what it is. We don't. We can empathize, but we'll never understand it 100%. So she's going to come with some great strategies that are honest, compassionate, and empowering. So her session tonight is called Understanding Menopause: From Hot Flashes to Happiness. Wow, that's awesome, right? Like making it a happy thing. And we're excited for you guys to actually hear what she has to say and share with all of you. So let's welcome Tracy to tonight's special guest. She's been here several times.
Buddy, it's so good to be back. It's always a pleasure to come and say hello to everybody and hopefully make this transition of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause a joyful one for you and informative. So let me share my screen so we can dive in. One second. Can you see my screen? Yep, perfect. Okay. Let me just make that a bit smaller. All right. We are going to demystify this tonight because there's a lot of things out there, misinformation. So we want to know what's really happening in our bodies, why it's happening, but we also want to know what in the world can we do about it to go be happy in this transition. A little bit about me if you have not been here before. Again, my name is Tracy. Thank you, Jean-Luc and Nick. Oh my gosh, my brain. Jean-Luc and Nick for introducing me. Basically, my goal for you tonight is to empower you to understand your body, but also give you the knowledge to advocate for yourself and for your needs. Because I think that's really, really important. Women sit in suffering for so long, and we want to empower you to go to your family doctor, go to your nurse practitioner with questions, and also to advocate for what it is that you need. And I also want you to feel like yourself again. And that is so important because a lot of times I have women come to me who are going through this transition, and honestly, they feel like their body is disconnecting from themselves. I've had clients come to me in tears because they just don't feel like themselves. So tonight, I want to make sure that you get all the knowledge you need to get the help you need so that you can feel like you again. So we're going to be covering a lot of content tonight. So grab your pens and your papers, and we're going to cover things from understanding perimenopause and menopause, what's happening in your body, navigating midlife, thrive lifestyle strategies, hormone therapies, GLP-1s. We're not going to go into a lot about GLP-1s because I think we're going to do a little session in the new year about that. So I'm just going to touch on it to give you an idea. Bone health, sexual wellness, all of the things we're going to be covering tonight. So let's start with the obvious. What is happening? So Perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause are basically a decrease in your sex hormones. So when fertility is de-optimized and ends, you go from being into perimenopause into menopause. It's a natural biological process for most people. There are some exceptions to that rule, including people that are going through chemotherapy or hormone blockers. Those folks are chemically put into menopause, chemically induced into menopause. And basically what this tells us is this is the end of your reproductive stage. So when your egg reserve is complete, there's no more follicles, or you're chemically put into menopause, your ovaries do not work anymore, ovulation stops. This is where menopause begins. So this can happen. Menopause starts 1 year after your last period. And perimenopause can start as early as age 35, and it can last from 5 months to 15 years. So everybody's different. The earliest age typically around regular menopause is 51. For the BIPOC community, it's 49, so 2 years younger. People with premature ovarian insufficiency, so their ovaries aren't working correctly, they will be put into menopause earlier. If you've had a hysterectomy and have had your ovaries removed, that's called an oophorectomy. That is also going to put you into menopause immediately following surgery. Cancer patients, like I mentioned before, with chemotherapy and hormone blockers, non-binary trans men will also go through this stage. Anyone with an ovarian system, if you have ovaries, you are going to go through menopause some way, somehow. This will happen. So most of the time when we talk about menopause and perimenopause, most people hear about estrogen and progesterone as being the two main sex hormones. However, as you can see, there are more than one and two that we actually have to talk about, because these are your main players of hormones that are affecting you in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So we do have our estrogen, we do have our progesterone, our cortisol, thyroid hormone, insulin, testosterone, and we also have secondary players, FSH and LH. And to give you a better understanding of what's happening, we're going to go through each hormone. So your estrogen before perimenopause, or before menopause rather, is your vibrancy hormone. This is your hormone that you look through the what I call the rose-colored glasses. Everything is wonderful. Everything is great. Hormones are great. Everything is fantastic. It's like a wonderful place to be. This is estrogen. And that's why sometimes women, when they get into menopause and postmenopause, they're like, why does everything tick me off? Part of the reason is your estrogen is low. Estrogen has 400 functions in the body. It affects your brain, your heart, your bone, your nervous system, digestive system, tissues in your body, your heart, which is your circulatory system. So when we have our ovaries working, our ovaries make the estrogen there. However, when our ovaries stop working, our adrenal glands actually then take over the function of creating estrogen. And our fat cells as well. So estradiol is the hormone that's made by your ovaries. Estrone is made from your adrenal glands and your fat cells once you hit menopause. So that shift doesn't happen until you hit menopause. Estrogen also balances our mood, which is that rose-colored glasses, life is wonderful look. It also supports our vaginal health. Lubrication supports our strength in our pelvic floor muscles. It regulates the vaginal and urinary microbiome, so keeping everything healthy in the vagina. Plays a role in our libido, supports our hair growth and skin, collagen, all of that youthfulness is estrogen. Temperature regulation, cardiovascular health, which is our heart, and bone health. Our progesterone comes next, and that is our chill and calm hormone. So this supports neurotransmitters in our brain. So it contributes to our mood and balancing our mood. So when we're going through perimenopause and menopause, a lot of people find that there's things trigger them easier. They get upset quicker. They, their husband breathes wrong, and that is what's happening. Our neurotransmitter is not being supported when our progesterone is low. Anti-inflammatory. So when our progesterone's working well, we've got anti-inflammatory properties in our body, and that contributes to our full body health. It also is the yang to estrogen. Estrogen's yang. It balances those estrogen levels, and that helps us maintain that hormonal balance. This is where our menstrual cycle comes in if you're still having periods, menstrual bleeding, and contributes to cycle regulation. If you are somebody who is still having periods and they are not normal, then that is your cue to go get checked out. If you are having bleeding menopause or postmenopausal, then you need to go to your gynecologist and get checked out. That is not normal, and you should not be having any bleeding in menopause or postmenopause. Progesterone also helps regulate our blood sugar levels and influences our energy, how we feel. Thyroid function, it optimizes our thyroid, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it also balances our mood, which is part of that neurotransmitter, and our sexual health, our libido. So it contributes to that sexual health and libido, feeling that desire, because it works with testosterone. We all have cortisol in our body. Our body actually needs cortisol. It helps regulate our metabolism. It reduces inflammation in the body, and it controls our sleep-wake cycle. So one of the first things that can happen in menopause and postmenopause and perimenopause is our sleep cycle changes. This is part of the reason why. This is also a key player in our body's fight or flight response to stress. Now, when we have too much cortisol in our body, we do gain weight, and it's a whole lot easier in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. We can get muscle aches, the aches in our joints, our heart palpitates, so it feels like it's skipping beats, headaches, agitation, and of course, that overwhelming feeling of just being very stressed. The thing about our bodies is our bodies are always going to prioritize survival over fertility. So if you're in a high stress job or you have a lot of stress in your personal life, your body is going to be like, okay, we're going to decrease our sex hormones. We're going to focus on survival. So if you have high chronic cortisol levels, you can see how that shift is going to change your overall health because the sex hormones will decrease. So when you want to have a healthy perimenopause and menopause, we have to learn to regulate our stress response because of our body's prioritization. And we want to prioritize our sex hormones over survival for as long as possible. So because our hormones also shift from our ovaries to our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands also help us with stress and our stress response. So if our adrenal glands are over fatigued because we have too much stress, then we're not going to be able to produce enough estrogen to keep us balanced. But also our adrenal glands will get what I call pooched out, they'll burn out, and then you're not going to be able to handle things as well as you normally would. And you're also going to feel very fatigued when your adrenal glands are not functioning at their highest level. So the next hormone is our thyroid hormone. So this regulates metabolism. This helps with your energy. The thyroid gland is a little butterfly gland that's in your neck, just right above that little notch in your neck. The interesting thing about this little butterfly organ is it influences the functioning of nearly every single organ in your body: heart, brain, livers, kidneys. And when that happens, we get sluggish, we gain weight quicker, When we go into hypothyroidism, which means that your thyroid isn't functioning to its top level, then our skin gets very dry, our hair starts to fall out. So you can see when this is not working optimally, how much this can affect our overall life as well. This also affects our body temperature and, of course, the weight. And next up is insulin. Now, you'll hear a lot online about insulin resistance. That is something that happens in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. We do actually naturally become a little bit insulin resistant. And the role of insulin is it helps the cells to absorb the nutrients from food when we ingest it, the glucose, from the bloodstream, and it helps get that glucose into the cells. And that's what we want to use for energy. So that helps us with energy production. It helps with storage. So when that's not working properly, then the cells kind of starve a bit, which makes you want to eat more. And then we end up putting on weight. When the insulin is working properly, it facilitates cellular energy so that all that glucose goes into the cell. The cells are happy. They're like, woo, we're getting fed, and they can function and do what they need to do. It also promotes the storage of excess glucose into our fat, into our adipose tissue, that yellow fat that we have, which is also a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And it stimulates amino acids into the cells as well, helping with protein synthesis, tissue repair, and it also inhibits glucose production. So when we have enough, we don't need more glucose in the bloodstream. The liver kicks in and suppresses that production of glucose. And it also prevents the breakdown of muscle tissue for energy. So people that don't eat enough food, your body will start, as they say, eating itself. This is one thing that can happen. It can become in a catabolic state. Insulin acts as an anti-catabolic hormone. So it prevents that breakdown of muscle tissue for energy. And it also regulates our appetite by signaling the brain regarding energy availability and promoting that feeling of fullness. So it plays a really, really important role. And this is just kind of a little video to demonstrate how insulin works. So we've got our energy there, that little flower, and it goes in there and crosses the bridge into the cell. So testosterone, women do produce testosterone too, and it plays a key role in maintaining our reproductive tissues, supports bone density, which becomes incredibly important as we age, and contributes to overall well-being. So it influences our libido, our sex drive. It also influences our energy levels and our muscle mass. So in women, it works together with estrogen and progesterone to maintain a really great hormonal balance. And the two secondary hormones that I was talking about is the follicle stimulating hormone, FSH for short, and our luteinizing hormone, LH for short. So FSH helps stimulate the release of the egg. So during our cycle, time to release the egg, FSH kicks in, egg is released. This is actually a really important hormone to get checked when you are in menopause, and to know for sure you're in menopause and postmenopause. Because when our ovaries stop producing eggs, it's done, the adrenals have picked up, FSH will actually increase. This is going to be an indicator of the decline in the ovarian function. So this is one of the tests that they look at for determining whether you are 100% sure you are in menopause or postmenopause. The luteinizing hormone, this is what stimulates the ovaries to produce the estradiol. And this rises and falls during perimenopause, but it falls during menopause and postmenopause. So what does all of this look like? It looks like this. So before we hit perimenopause, We have the nice hills and valleys. The hormones are rising and falling as they should, very, uniform. And then when we get to perimenopause, it looks like a toddler took a crayon and just started scribbling all over the page. It's not succinct, it's all over the map, and it's no wonder people feel like everything's falling apart in this stage because your hormones are all over the map. And then when we get to post-menopause, it's almost like we flatline. There's, as you can see, the estrogen and progesterone are the two lines on the bottom. We have the LH just above that. And then you can see in the aqua dots how the FSH has just really risen above the other three. So this is why these hormones are so, so important. And when they decrease, that's when we start having issues. And the thing about it is everybody's symptoms of perimenopause, menopause are so different. There are over 30 plus hormones that you can experience during this time. And it's no wonder people struggle when they go to the doctor saying, I have difficulty concentrating, and all of a sudden I'm developing allergies. And the doctor's like, I don't know. Or it's no wonder when you go and you say, God, I feel like my heart is like just all over the place. It doesn't feel like I feel like it's beating in an irregular form. And they don't put it together. Now, everybody knows night sweats, hot flashes. Those are kind of the common ones, the weight gain. That's usually the common symptoms most people will experience. But frozen shoulder, most women will get frozen shoulder where they can't move their arm all of a sudden. And they go to the doctor being like, I've got this frozen shoulder. That is actually because of the decrease in your sex hormones. Obviously, irregular periods will be an indicator that something's changing. Vaginal dryness, decreased libido, headaches, burning in your mouth is actually a symptom. Ringing in your ears, feeling like there's electric shocks going through your body, especially the legs, brittle nails, fatigue, itchy skin, gums bleeding, muscle tension. All of a sudden you have digestive issues. Oh, I've got heartburn. All of these things make it really hard at the beginning to put all the pieces together. So sometimes it takes a little bit before you get the help you need. So now you know a little bit about what perimenopause and menopause is. So let's start talking about what can you do about it. So one of the first things that I do with my clients is I start here with something called the menopause transition archetype. And the reason I do this is because this tool helps me figure out and understand, based on your constellation of symptoms, what's happening to you in that moment today. And it also helps us to figure out, okay, because menopause and perimenopause, it's not a one size fits all. And every person rather experiences this differently. So based on that variation of symptoms and struggles, I put that together into a quiz that I do. And then we figure out which one of these 7 is you and what's happening with you. When we have a really big variation in experience, symptoms, and struggles, it's a problem, because what happens is then you get information that may be completely wrong for you. And what that does is it leaves you frustrated. It leaves you with no results. And this is where we uncover what's a better approach for you. And so I always start my people here. So there are 7 menopause archetypes: estrogen excess, cortisol craver, liver lover, mitochondria, broken burner, the unicorn, and the low low. So I'll just give you a brief synopsis of what each of these things are. So estrogen excess means that, so when our brain says, okay, we need to send a signal to our follicle stimulating hormone, that FSH, to get things ready so that we can release that egg, so that production of estrogen slows down, then it creates the response, right? So the estrogen excess impacts the insulin, the thyroid, the adrenals, right? When it doesn't function properly, then if ovulation doesn't occur because, the FSH hasn't been able to release the egg, then we get less progesterone. And when that happens, we get a higher excess of estrogen and a lower amount of progesterone. So then they're not in balance. So that's basically the Coles Notes version of an estrogen excess. A cortisol craver, obviously a higher cortisol level creates a lower amount of sex hormone production. So that's why that stress is really important to decrease. Because when we have high cortisol levels, we get the weight gain, we get the fatigue, we feel hungry all the time, difficulty falling asleep. So when I know that you're a cortisol craver, we can work on doing things to help reduce that. Number 3 is liver lever. Oops, sorry. I don't know why that did that. There we go. It really doesn't love us sometimes, the liver lever. So basically when this happens, it's impacting a lot of hormonal systems. As you can see, estrogen, cortisol, and insulin. So our liver is where we process different things in our body. It's a filtration system for foods, for medication, for hormones. So when those estrogen, cortisol, and insulin levels are increased, it really makes the liver have to work harder. So when you have certain symptoms like fatigue, less energy during your workouts, headaches, that's an indication to me that you are struggling, and archetype number 3, which is a liver lever. So number 4 is our mighty mitochondria. So the mitochondria in our body is our powerhouse for our cell. So when it's basically our energy producing cells. So when we are struggling, if our cells are sluggish, then we require higher energy needs. So this affects how our mitochondria works in our body. And again, we're going to get headaches, migraines, muscle cramping, poor recovery, and chronic fatigue when when our cells basically are struggling. So that's what happens when we are in the mitochondria. Our broken burner is number 5. And this is our thyroid and insulin imbalances. So our TSH, T3, T4, that gets affected. That's the TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone that they test when they do your blood work, along with the T3 and T4, which are kind of like the pairs that go together and gives you a full picture of how your thyroid is functioning. So when that's not working properly, you can be hypo, which means your thyroid isn't working as optimally, and that's called hypothyroidism. So we're going to get higher insulin levels, which puts us at an increased risk for diabetes when we are a broken burner. We're also going to feel a bit more depressed. We're going to have more cravings when we are a broken burner. We're going to feel the cold a lot more because, again, thyroid works on temperature. And we're going to have infertility issues. If you are still in perimenopause and still trying to have children, you are going to have infertility issues if you are a broken burner. The unicorn. There's not many of them out there, but they do exist. And it's exactly as you seem. People, I'm sure you've met them, people that have said, well, I went through menopause and I didn't feel a thing. Those are our unicorns. And their symptoms are very minimal. And I wish everyone was a unicorn. However, not all of us are unicorns. They are special and they're out in the wild. And so basically their symptoms are more mild than everybody else's. And lastly, the low low. If you are in menopause or postmenopause, I can pretty much guarantee you were what we call the low number 7. Your estrogen is low, your progesterone is low, and so is your testosterone. So you're going to have vaginal dryness, you're going to have vaginal irritation, difficulty building muscle mass, difficulty sleeping, joint pain, depressed mood. These are all things that can happen to you when you are a low. So those are basically your menopause transition archetypes. And you can see just by what I've talked about here, how when certain things are being affected, what's happening to you might not be happening to somebody else, which is why menopause is not a one size fits all. But there are treatments, and one of them is menopause hormone therapy. The old name used to be HRT, hormone replacement therapy, but now we are calling it menopause hormone therapy. The best time to take menopause hormone therapy is actually in perimenopause. And they are recommending that now. There are some times where you are not going to be eligible for this. One of those times will be if you are a breast cancer survivor, unless you are triple negative. So if you're estrogen positive, progesterone positive, or HER2 positive, you are not eligible for MHT. If you are triple negative, they are starting to allow triple negative breast cancer survivors to take MHT. The kind that you want to take is body identical. It is estrogen in a gel, a patch, or spray. It's identical to the estradiol that your body creates from the ovaries. That's why this one is number 1. The risk of deep vein thrombosis or a clot in your leg is 0. So it is very safe. Bioidentical MHT is not recommended, and it's actually in some countries they've banned it. So I just wanted you to be aware that there are ones that are called bioidentical, not recommended. Testosterone replacement. Usually women only get testosterone if they find that their sexual desire and ability is significantly diminished. Then you could also go on testosterone as well. However, most women find if they go on a body identical estradiol, then they don't have issues with their sexual desire or function. So they don't necessarily need it. Some women choose to go on a Mirena coil. That's a low dose synthetic progesterone. That's usually used for heavy bleeding in perimenopause and not for post. If you still have a uterus, you will take estrogen, estradiol, or progesterone. The reason you have to take progesterone, that is a non-negotiable, is because when you have a uterus and you do not take progesterone along with estrogen, you are at an increase of endometrial cancer. So it is highly recommended, non-negotiable, estrogen and progesterone together. If you don't have a uterus, that's not a concern for you. You only need the estradiol alone, the estrogen. There are contraindications to taking MHT, like I mentioned, history of breast cancer or other estrogen-sensitive tumors, history of a pulmonary embolism, so a clot in your lung, and deep vein thrombosis, so a clot in your leg, severe or active liver disease, history of a stroke or a heart attack, or undiagnosed genital bleeding. That means you cannot take hormone therapy. Not contraindications, which used to be contraindications, but they have found through studies that they're not now, is smoking, diabetes, hypertension, so high blood pressure, migraine without aura. And the reason I say without aura is because if you are someone who has migraines with aura, meaning you see the kaleidoscope of lights, like the jagged edges of lights with your aura, then you are actually at an increased risk of stroke. So they actually recommend it's only migraine without aura. If you have an aura, you need to make sure that you speak to your doctor about that to make sure that you're not at risk for a stroke. Obesity and family history of breast cancer. So they used to say when you had a family history of breast cancer, no, you could not take MHT, but now they have decided that you can. Because 80% of breast cancers are actually not genetic. So there's no relationship. Genitourinary syndrome of menopause is a very common and treatable condition. It's due to the low estrogen in the vagina and urinary systems. So where you pee, your urethra, your bladder. Why is this important? Because when our sex hormones decrease, and every woman sadly is going to have GSM, it leads to painful intercourse, vaginal itching, recurrent UTIs, which is bladder infections. Our labia decrease. We frequently have to go to the bathroom. We also pee a little when we cough, sneeze, bend over the wrong way, and it changes our vaginal microbiome. So we see this a lot in the hospital, a lot of older patients coming in, chronic UTIs, painful intercourse. They also are because the microbiome changes in the vagina, your pH actually increases. It also makes you susceptible to other infections as well. And we have also seen patients come in with sepsis because of GSM. So this also decreases your quality of life, especially if you have a very active sex life with your partner. This becomes very difficult when we don't treat the GSM. And you want to have quality of life. You don't want to have burning in your vagina. You don't want to have painful intercourse. You don't want to be going to the bathroom 50 million times a day and have urinary incontinence. So the cure for this is vaginal estrogen. They are actually recommending every woman in perimenopause, if the symptoms are bothering you. However, if you're in menopause or postmenopause, they are recommending every person go on vaginal estrogen. It's low dose, but the benefits far outweigh the risks. There are creams, there are inserts you can use, there are rings you can also use. There's selective estrogen receptor modulator, which is used for patients that are actually for breast cancer patients, if that's their choice, but they can still use vaginal estrogen. And vaginal DHEA, which your vaginal mucosa turns DHEA into estradiol and androgens. So that's how that works. It is local treatment. It is not systemic, meaning it does not leach into the rest of your body. So vaginal estrogen is safe for breast cancer survivors to use. So everybody who has not had this chat with their doctor, please do, because it will help you with your urinary issues as well as your vaginal issues. And this is something you'll be taking every day, and you can take it till the day you move on to the next life. Non-hormonal options for people that either choose not to take MHT or people that cannot take MHT for obvious reasons. Believe it or not, cognitive behavioral therapy there's really strong evidence for reducing the distress caused by hot flashes. There's lots of evidence coming out showing that this is extremely helpful. There's also a new medication. It's called NK3. It's a receptor antagonist. And it works on balancing the brain signals for the hot flashes. It helps regulate the temperature so that you decrease your hot flashes and your night sweats. Gabapentin has also been found to work with that nerve pain, those electrical shocks that you feel, but also effective for hot flashes and night sweats too. And it actually, a lot of women have said that they found that it helps them with sleep. SSRIs are antidepressants, and they can help with hot flashes, night sweats, and mood swings. Most physicians are kind of moving a little bit away from that and trying the NK3 receptor antagonists instead, but SSRIs, the antidepressants, are still an option on the table for you. The oxybutynin, that is something they use for overactive bladder and for urinary urge incontinence. So if that is something that is really troubling for you, then you want to take this particular medication. MenoThrive is a natural supplement. This is actually one thing that I do put on all my clients because it helps with mood, it helps with hot flashes, night sweats, and it also helps and supports heart health. So this is something that I tend to put most of my clients on. And also hypnosis has been found to be extremely effective. That mind-body therapy has been extremely effective for helping people manage their symptoms. So if you are not able to take hormone therapy, these are some great 7 options that you can take, that can help you get through the transition. The other thing to help with weight gain, because when we look at menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause, it does become a metabolic effect because of all the different hormones that are going out of whack in our bodies when we go through to menopause and postmenopause. Sometimes we need to have a GLP-1 medication to basically help us with the metabolic effect that's happening, especially in menopause and postmenopause. So we have GLP-1 in our bodies already. It's a glucagon-like peptide, and it's basically one of the star players next to GIP in our body for weight management and hunger. So it's produced in our lower intestine, in our ileum, and in our colon. So these are called L cells. And so the cells release the GLP-1 in your bloodstream when you eat. So if you have a metabolic effect going on, then that's going to be, and that gets changed, that GLP-1 gets changed and isn't working as it should. This is where GLP-1 medication would be an option for you. The other thing about a GLP-1 medication that I have also found is, as well as helping with weight, it also is an anti-inflammatory effect. So it calms the inflammation in our body, because naturally in menopause and postmenopause, our inflammation goes up. So this actually calms that down. It's also been found to be helpful for protecting our hearts, and it also help with our kidneys as well. And it also can lower blood pressure and cholesterol too. So it has some effects they're finding that really work well for menopausal and postmenopausal women. So adding a GLP medication to your repertoire is a tool that you're going to use to prolong appetite suppression and slow digestion down. So usually, currently, most people are using it for weight management and type 2, but it can be used for all those other things I just talked about. There are some side effects: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, decreased appetite, extreme decreased appetite, and in some cases, gallstones and pancreatitis. However, they have actually figured out the way they originally started giving the medication to people was too fast and didn't allow the body enough time to catch up to the medication doing its thing. So the way that they give the dosing of the medication has changed significantly. So pancreatitis has decreased. The amount of gastroparesis, which is where your stomach actually gets paralyzed, that is pretty much virtually decreased as well. And the nausea and vomiting as well. So there are things that they've done since, but I still have to tell people about these side effects, but there are things that we've done in the medical community to make sure that these side effects are a lot less than they used to be. So like I said, why you would consider them a tool for your repertoire is because of those metabolic shifts during menopause that can lead to the weight gain, the insulin resistance, higher risk of type 2 diabetes. So that can help with that. It can help with blood sugar control, appetite regulation. So it really makes it a supportive option during menopause and postmenopause and even perimenopause. So when we look at these things, we also need to look at lifestyle. We also need to look at food. And one of the main things that we don't realize, and I'll tell you, I didn't realize it till I started going on this journey, is protein is super, super important. You should be getting 100 grams of protein a day. Fiber, you should be getting 30 grams of fiber a day, 10 grams at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you should be eating fats, really good fats. So what I call this is the complete in three: protein, fat, and fiber should be happening at every single meal. Protein, you want your chicken, your turkey, your beef, pork, legumes, garlic, onions, seeds, fruits, veggies, all of those things should be part of your balanced diet. Essential fats, oily fish, nuts, seeds, tahini, olive oil, avocado oil. If you're going to be cooking with high heat, you need to be using avocado oil because it handles high heat better than olive oil, just as an FYI. Fiber, we need soluble and insoluble fiber. Flax seeds have been shown to really help with cardiac health, with heart health. So these are all things you need to have in your life. Nutrition supplements. So recommended calcium, you take 1,200 milligrams a day. And if you can get it from your diet, great. I personally am not a milk drinker, or I don't eat a lot of cheese or anything like that. So I tend to take this in tablet form. Vitamin D. If you're not taking vitamin D, I really encourage you to take vitamin D, 800 to 2,000 a day. It actually has been shown to decrease cancer risk. So vitamin D, super, super important. One of the things that happened and happens to women in menopause and postmenopause, it certainly happened to me. When I went through menopause, all of a sudden my stress levels were really high. I was going through a lot at work, and I noticed that my muscles I was getting more fat around my legs that I had never had before. And this was sarcopenia. This is where your muscle mass decreases and your fat increases. And part of the reason that happened to me was because I was going through COVID and I was so stressed, and I was teaching my fitness classes online like we all were. But I forgot to weight train basically and resistance train. I was doing straight up cardio, and I ended up getting sarcopenia from all of those factors. And this is automatic if we're not lifting weights or doing some type of resistance training. And it doesn't need to be heavy weights. And so this happens, and we lose about 3 to 8% without any intervention. And it goes higher after 60. So the effects of sarcopenia actually start in our 30s and gets worse as we age. And I can tell you, it was an eye-opener for me. But we can change that. Movements keep our joint mobile. 2 to 3 times a week of strength training and resistance training help with the sarcopenia. If we're doing 10,000 steps a day. Now, if you're somebody that's just new to exercise, I would take it one step at a time. Pick one thing per week that you're going to work on and build. Do not try and do all of these things all at once, because if you make it hard, you are not going to do it. If you put too much on your plate to do, you're not going to do it. So we want to make it fun, and we don't want to make it hard. We want to keep our muscles strong, not just for the sarcopenia, but because when we're 80, 90, 100, we don't want to be in that wheelchair. We want to be moving. We want to be walking. We want to be traveling. We want to be doing all the things we want to do. This is going to help you do that. So we want to move more, not less, as we get older. Because movement also isn't just about, muscles and strength training and heart training. It's also about giving back to ourselves. So movement makes it easier to bend over. It makes it easier when we're reaching for a cupboard. It makes it easier when we have balance, when we have flexibility, we have strength to help us, to prevent us from falling. And I'm sure you've all seen it. Some of the older folks that have not done anything, and they are walking around with the walkers there, and then they fall. that in some cases, for women especially, when we break a hip, when we're older, we have a 30% mortality rate within the first year of breaking that hip. And that's a massive statistic. So strength training, resistance training is going to help you with your bones as well. So this is why this is really, really important to do. And you can start at any time, at any age, you can start. All it takes is one step. Resistance training also keeps our testosterone levels up because of the muscle mass that we're creating. And lean tissues help our blood sugar levels, our metabolism, and decreases our inflammation in our bodies. So 10,000 steps a day is what you want to work towards if you're just starting. If you're there, fantastic, thumbs up. 30 minutes a day of some type of movement. Make it fun, not hard. 2 to 3 times per week, strength training, resistance training. You can use soup cans in your cupboard or pasta sauce cans in your cupboard if you don't have weights at home. Something that makes your muscles move and work. The number one killer of women right now is not breast cancer, it's actually heart disease. So when our estrogen levels decrease, the elasticity of our coronary arteries also decrease. They become stiffer. So estrogen causes the blood vessels to dilate or widen. So that increases the blood supply to women. And sadly, if you've had a heart attack, you're not able to take the MHT, as I said earlier. And the reason this is because of that inflammation caused by the plaque in your heart. And it could cause the plaque to rupture if you take the MHT. So that's why, unfortunately, you're out. You guys who have had a heart attack are out of that equation. Estrogen matters, especially in the first year. After 1 year, then your risks are relatively the same as everybody else. However, you can take MHT within the first 10 years after menopause too. And that will still help you with your cardiac risk. High carbohydrate intake is still associated with higher risk of mortality and sitting for long periods. So sitting on our computer for long periods, trying to get up. If you work at a desk job, stand up, do some squats, walk around, go to the water cooler, do something, move yourself. Don't stay there all day. We've got to rest and learn how to relax as well. So yoga, meditation, all of those things will decrease the stress in our life because stress is also associated with cardiac risk. And the flaxseed that I was talking about earlier, that helps lubricate the coronary arteries. So if you have flaxseed, put 1 to 2 tablespoons of it in water and drink it up. Or in the MenoThrive I was talking about earlier, that has flaxseed in it already. Sleep is so important in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, but it's also one of the things that we struggle with the most. We want to establish our bedtime power down hour because that means no screens, no TV. We want to start encouraging our body to slow down to get ready for sleep. Magnesium glycinate, I prefer the liquid, is really good to take an hour before bed. That's going to help shut our brains off and get us ready for sleep. So magnesium glycinate, it also helps with restless leg syndrome, which we can get in menopause and postmenopause. So that's something that can help you with that as well. Most of us require about 7.5 hours of sleep a night. So you want to make sure you're going to bed at enough time so that can happen. And you also want to wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends, because we want to keep our circadian rhythm as close to what it should be as possible. When you're going to bed, if you're struggling, guided meditation. You can get free apps. FitOn has a meditation portion in its app. Spotify has meditations that are free. You want to listen to a meditation or calming music, something to calm your nervous system down from the day so that you can sleep. You want to try the 5-5-7 breath. So 5 seconds of inhale, 5 seconds hold, 7 seconds you want to for exhale. No caffeine after 2 p.m. because it stays in our system for 6 to 8 hours. So if you're going to have coffee, have it 90 minutes after you wake up and kind of leave it at that if you can. Limit screen time, like I said. Alcohol, 1 glass of wine, have it with a glass of water, because alcohol does affect our deep sleep. And that is where we repair and we grow and everything gets, this is our rest recharge time, is when you're sleeping. So we want to make sure we don't affect that sleep. The other thing I will add as a side note is the new medical guidelines for alcohol is 2 glasses per week only. So it's not daily anymore. It's 2 per week at the most. The other thing is alcohol is one of the factors that is linked to cancer. So that is also something, if you are someone who drinks alcohol more than 2 a week, this is a consideration for you. We also want to do the deep work. As I mentioned before, cognitive behavioral therapy works really well for menopause and postmenopause and perimenopause. So doing the deep work, we want to address some of our beliefs that have negatively impacted our life, because that affects our anxiety levels and our ability to relax. And menopause is such a transitional period that some of those conditioned responses that we come up with are not helpful to us, and we need to deal with that. And we need to deal with that stress happening now and also things from your past. So working with a life coach or a therapist, social work, whoever works for you to clear those deep wounds and those negative messages is so important in this phase of life. Osteoporosis, those fractures, highest risk are menopausal women, smokers, people who have large quantities of alcohol intake. So you want to measure your height yearly, and you also want to get bone densities done. Usually they do them every other year. Rebounding is really great for osteoporosis because it helps actually build the muscle. It's preventative. Weight bearing, resistance training, taking those calcium supplements, like I said. Antacids like Tums actually increase your risk of osteoporosis. So if you're taking Tums, see if there's another solution that would work better, because it does leaches the bone from you. And dark leafy green vegetables, because we don't want to get a fracture. We don't want to break our hips. We don't want to be in our wheelchair, and we don't want to increase our mortality. So we really have to look after our bone health. And our sexual health. So as our sex hormones decrease, it affects our libido. It's harder to get aroused. Our vagina loses that elasticity. We get the atrophy. We also can get stenosis, vaginal stenosis. And what that means is the vaginal opening becomes tighter and smaller. And of course, intercourse becomes painful. Most women suffer with this in silence. They don't say a word about it. But 1/3 of women in this time, in perimenopause and menopause, report difficulty. So what do? The vaginal estrogen. You want to use vibrators, toys, lubricants can help. And you want to do more direct stimulation of the clitoris. But you also need to have really clear communication with your partner, because you may have to do things differently. Sex may look different in this time of life. So you need to figure out what it is and what feels pleasurable for you. And you need to be able to have those conversations with your partner open and honestly. Don't suffer in silence, because that's not going to be good for you, and that's going to affect your quality of life. So nothing in this phase is random. And like I said, it's not a one size fits all. And your hormones, your estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, insulin, cortisol, testosterone, FSH, LH, that's a mouthful, isn't it? They're all shifting. And this impacts your energy, your weight, your sleep, your mood, metabolism, sexual health. It affects everything about our life. Here's the truth. You are not powerless. You are not just getting older, and you don't have to suffer in silence. So my hope tonight was that you leave feeling this talk informed, validated, and equipped with tools that you can take to your doctor, real options, and I hope a deeper understanding of your body, because it's not an ending, it's a transition. And with the right support, you can feel strong, vibrant, and like yourself again. Thank you. Any questions?
Awesome, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tracy. You're so awesome. I love when you do this because you know what? I'm sitting here and Nick and I were just sitting here listening.
I'm like, I can't talk about any of this stuff.
And not only that, it goes to show you how much, you know what? Maybe even having your partners or our significant others understand and listen to stuff like this really would make maybe them realize what you guys go through. Like it's mind-boggling to me. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I can't believe women go through this. It's a part of their life. Like we as men don't have something in the same realm, right? Actually, you guys go through everything. You give birth, you guys have children, you also have to go through this, and it just makes me humbles me in certain ways. I really want to say it humbles me because you guys carry so much of the world's, I don't want to, burden's not the word, but maybe so much of the word. You are so important to this world, every single one of you.
Aw,
So yeah,
that's so
it
nice of
really
you to
really
say.
goes to show how important this
Suck
world
up.
is without. No, but it's true. It's true. And I think my mom's a unicorn.
She might be.
But
They
yeah, when
are out there in the world.
I was talking to her this afternoon, and we like at some point I was mentioning that you're coming to Trace tonight, Tracy, and my mom says how much she loves listening to you talk as well. And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, my menopause really. She goes, I don't. I think I had a hot flash. I was like, oh, really, mom? That's funny. But so
Yes.
it's really interesting to think that there are people like it's not a one size fits all. Like
It's not.
it's almost like everyone's journey. It's not a one size fits all, right?
Yep.
So
And I think too, the understanding that, like I said at the top, hot flashes and night sweats is typically what people think of when they think of menopause. But they don't they don't always think about the urinary symptoms and the vaginal atrophy and all of the other things, the slow thyroid and the frozen like they don't think of all these other things that really is because of all those hormones I talked about. And so sometimes people are like, yes, I don't have any symptoms. But then when I dig deeper, they're like, oh yeah, I have that. Oh yeah, I have that. Oh yeah, I have that. I'm like, okay.
And they never really related it to being a menopause symptom. So that's so interesting as well.
Exactly. Yes,
So
exactly.
Tracy is a Kickstart member. So a lot of people in chat are asking for your information. Can you post your information in any of the Kickstart groups? Just share how people can find you, especially if they want to have a consultation or come and see you in some way. So Tracy will provide all that because she is a Kickstart member. She's actually a registered member.
She actually also was one of our very first presenters at the live Kickstart retreat we had in October.
Yes.
So.
Tracy presented about food labels and how to read them and and
supplements and vitamins and
all that stuff. So it was a great session. So thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being here.
We just know how meaningful these conversations are and how important they are. And coming from someone who has the experience, who's not only gone through it, I'm sure personally, but has the knowledge and the education as well, is so it's so reassuring, right? Because it's coming from learned information. So we really appreciate your expertise in this.
Thank you. Well, and also too, I'm going through it myself, so it's always good to have somebody who's been through it too.
Couldn't ask for more of an expert then.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you everybody for listening and being here tonight. I appreciate you all.
We appreciate you. Thanks, Tracy.
So
you're very welcome.
A quick reminder. Oh, sorry about that. Just a quick reminder before we head out for the evening. There is no show this Thursday, and there's no show on Sunday. So November 20th or November 23rd. We don't have any evening sessions, but we will be back next Tuesday on the 25th at 7 o'clock.
The topic will be stress and self-care, finding balance in busy times. So we'll cover things that cause stress, how to set boundaries, how to recharge, how to stay grounded as the holidays ramp up, because it is November 18th.
It's beginning to look a lot like holidays.
Thanksgiving is coming for the US, and then we have Christmas. It's a very stressful time of year. So, we'll talk about that next time we meet in a week from today.
And thank you so much for being here. Make sure you submit your trackers. Make sure you check your scorecard. Make sure you catch up on any of the dates that you're missing if you can, and just have a great week. Have a great rest of your week.
Talk to you all later.